Good morning, everyone. My name is Freeman. I'm one of the OIDCs at Mountain View. I'm joined here with Kristen, who's also an OIDC at Mountain View. I'll briefly describe what an OIDC is. We work with the EdTech team, um, but we're also teachers. So our job, it's primarily Canvas, and our job is to basically experiment with stuff in our classes in order to help other people out. But that's what an OIDC is. If you see one of those, if you see that acronym somewhere and are wondering what they do, that's us. Um, I also wanted to show you guys before we get started, the cohort course, just so everybody's aware of its existence and um, the reference that it can be for you. And in fact, today I'll show you that I'm going to be covering what's found in the collaboration module. On Tuesday, I did the first two items found here. So if you have any questions about these, there is already a training that exists, and we'll tell you guys how to get there towards the end of this meeting. But these two already exist. And then today I'm going to be talking about collaborations and discussions. Um, but just remember that we spent a lot of time on this, and it's a great resource for any questions you may have about Canvas in general. So as far as the training goes today, if you have any questions, you can just type them into the feed, or there's this really cool feature you can use where you raise your hand. If you hover next to your name, you should be able to see that. All right, I'll go ahead and get started on collaborations. So collaborations that are found in Canvas are an excellent tool for you to use to get students to collaborate on different projects, to work together on papers or other projects, or even notes. I can discuss that. I haven't used it for notes, but I can go over how to do that. I would imagine that there are many ways to use collaborations that I'm not aware of. I'm going to cover some of the ways that I've used them. Um, and you're welcome to experiment to see. There's probably a million different ways. So what you do is, to get started, go to, I'm going to be using our staff PLN in order to demonstrate this, which means there's a million people in here. Of course, you won't have the same experience with that many people, but um, it's the exact same instructions. So you would start by going to collaborations in Canvas, and you will see this page that talks about getting started with collaborations. The first thing you will do is add a collaboration. I'm not sure why there are two Google apps here, but go ahead and click on the first one. And you should come up with a screen that looks like this. So on the left here, you should see your roster. Like I said, there are a million people here, but you should see the roster for whatever course you're working in. So there's two ways that I primarily use this. One is to collaborate in groups, and one is to collaborate as a whole class. So the first thing I'll do is show you how to collaborate in groups. You have the option up here to choose which kind of document you want to use. And so they go from Google Docs to slides and or spreadsheets. So you can choose which one you want people to collaborate on. I had a teacher recently who was using or was planning to use uh, presentations in order to have the entire class. Actually, I'll use that when I'm demonstrating the entire class, but she was going to use the presentation so that each one could be assigned a slide in order to create it together, which I thought would be an interesting activity. So, for example, I'm an English teacher. Let's say that I want to have everybody collaborate on some sort of writing assignment. Then I would leave it on document, so they're working on Google Docs. I would name the assignment. And then I would go and choose who I want to have in this group. So let's just assume it's these first four people. I would add them. You have the option of removing them if you change your mind later. But once you hit submit, this creates groups on the Google Doc. So make sure you're arranging them ahead of time, doing a little bit of planning for this. So once I've chosen the group that I want to work on this sample, I hit submit. And what it does is it creates the document as you see in this list over here. Now, what this does is basically just set up a Google Doc for these four people who can access it through collaborations. So they'll go into collaborations, they'll hit the assignment, and it'll take them to this Google Doc, and they'll immediately start sharing it. So those four people that I had selected um, would hit that button and end up here, and they can begin doing whatever assignment that you. Um, Now, uh, you may want, I mean, of course, you're going to want to have more, there'll be more people in your class. It won't be just one group of four. So you'll have to go back and basically set up collaborations for each one of these sets of people. So I'll go back into collaborations. Sorry. I'll add a collaboration. Google Apps. And I will choose four more people to create a separate group in order to start collaborating on the document. So the cool thing is you also are a collaborator. Um, Sorry, I'm getting lost here. You are also a collaborator, so you can go back in and work with this document yourself. Um, there will be probably a lot of that jumping through authorizing Google windows that pop up, so just authorize all those as you go through. But you can go in and start collaborating with them. Um, what I've seen teachers do is they'll use this for taking notes. So they'll set up their groups and then go into each one of the documents and type something like, what do you think was important about chapter, whatever you're working on? And you'll have them start putting in information and coming up with ideas together and basically making a set of notes that they can use as a group as a reference for later. And that's really how you use the collaborations for groups. I will say this, because I do use collaborations in my class with groups, it is much easier for you to set up groups ahead of time. On Tuesday in the collaborations part one, I went over how to set up groups, which when you set them up, you should see them here. I set these up on Tuesday when I was going through that. And so it's a lot easier actually if you have your group set up ahead of time, and then instead of remembering how many people you put in what group, because that takes a lot of planning and thinking, you can just use the groups. So and make the assignment, um, the Google assignment, go directly to whoever's found in this group. So if you want to know about groups, I'd be more than happy to talk about that when we get finished here. Or you can go view that training that was from Tuesday. Like I said, you could also have entire classes collaborate on a document together. Like I said, I had a government teacher who, actually, I want to get back at it. I had a government teacher, well, I guess I could just stay here. I had a government teacher who was planning on using Google Slides in order to have her students work through an assignment where each one is given a slide. This will take a lot more coordination on your part. So, like you'd have to be clear about who's responsible for what slide, what group they're in, et cetera, et cetera. But it was an interesting strategy. So she chose Google Presentations. She named it. And then what you would have to do if you want the entire class working on the same document is go through and make sure all of the people end up in there. That might also be easier for groups as it'll be less clicking. And as far as I know, there is no way to just add all of these people. I could be wrong about that, but I haven't found a way to do this. But if you have your group set up, then it'd be easy to move everybody um, into the document. So once you've got everybody in, you can push submit. And this should take you to the Google slide presentation. And so everybody, once they go into collaborations and access the assignment, it should take them directly to this page to begin working. She, of course, went in and added a whole bunch of slides and she probably labeled them with different group numbers, so everybody knew exactly what they were doing. So you just have to be very explicit with your instructions when you're using entire classes. Um, so once a student is finished with this work, um, I did want to show you how they would submit it. So when they are working on the document together and they have finished it and they're ready to turn it in, um, you need to set up an assignment that gives them a place for them to upload their document. So I'll just add an assignment. Also be sample. I would have all the instructions here again, just to be clear about what the expectations are. And then when you get down here, make sure that you're clicking the file upload. So when students get to the point that they're ready to submit the assignment, they will uh, they'll have options. So in order to what sort of file uploads there will be, and one of them will be to access their Google Drive, and they'll go in and find um, the assignment and then upload it from there. Otherwise, it just functions exactly like an assignment. Um, and that about covers it for collaborations. Are there any questions about collaboration? We good? I'll take the silence as a yes, so I'll go ahead and move on to discussions. I'm sure at this point, especially given our current circumstances, you've had an opportunity to at least hear about discussions or even try using them yourself, but I'll go through them. Um, so discussions are a great way to have students engage in material collaboratively, so to work together on things. And I wanted to show you first the dashboard here and explain to you what these different parts are. Um, so when you hit discussions, you're going to end up on this dashboard. Um, so at the top, it says pinned discussions. And what pinned discussions are is a way for you to move a discussion into an area where it shows up at the top of the discussion list for a student. I don't really ever use pinned discussions because typically students are accessing discussions through my modules. So it just takes them to the discussion. I'm not even sure if they ever even click on the discussions tab, but be aware that if you want it to be of some importance, you can move it into the pinned discussions. Also down here is the close for comments. So you can move any one of these discussions that you've created into either one of these. And so if the discussion is finished and you want it closed for review, then you can move it down into the close for comments section where um, students are unable to participate in the discussion anymore. And in the middle, you have the discussions area. So um, this is just where the discussions that you've created exist before they are utilized by the students. So in order to set up a discussion, you can go up to add discussion, and you're given a lot of options here. So title it, just the advice I would give is be very clear about your expectations as far as the discussions go. So in my English class, um, my initial posts need to be a minimum of a paragraph, and which uh, paragraphs become a debate after a while with students, but just to make sure that they're fulfilling all the requirements, just be very clear about what you expect them to do. I usually fill these with quite a few instructions. And then you have the option to assign these to different sections. You can choose a file that you want them to have access to with the discussion. So perhaps a video or something that they can view and then respond to. And then you have all these options here. So allow thread replies. I'm not really sure why you wouldn't click that since you want people discussing things. It's the whole point of discussions. I always click users must post before seeing replies just because I feel like it's important for them to come up with their ideas first before they start, you know, offering input to everybody else about the things that they're writing. There's the enable podcast feed, which I've never used. I'm assuming it's only for audio. Um, and there's graded. So
Freeman,
yeah.
can I interrupt real fast?
Sure.
Um, One example where I didn't check users must post before seeing replies was when I did like a Q&A type discussion. So they could see previous people's questions, and if they, so I didn't get a lot of the same question over and over again. I said, if you also have that question, hit the like button. So just an idea for, but if you're using it like you were talking about, then I always also use the see before replying button.
Yeah, that's a great point. Also, if you're using it as you, I think you went through in one of these trainings the communication module, right?
Yes.
So it's probably important to leave that unchecked there too. So students aren't having to just write something before they involve themselves in a thread. That makes sense. Thank you for that. So graded. I'm assuming most of these will be graded. So you would click this box, which opens up all sorts of options for you as far as grading goes. And then you can have allow liking. And I don't usually mess much with this. I know other teachers do. You can sort by likes, and if I'm not mistaken, if something gets more likes, it is elevated in the conversation. And if I'm mistaken about that, someone can correct me. But so you have a lot of options here as far as the discussions go. You may also turn this into a group discussion, which, like I said, I went over groups on Tuesday. And if you have them set up, then you can turn them into individual group assignments, discussions, so that they are working together on these. Or you can create new groups. You can assign points to it. These days, I think it's most popular for people to use complete and incomplete with our current circumstances, but you have different options as far as points are concerned with the discussions. You can choose which assignment group you want them to end up in. You may also require peer reviews, which I also went over on Tuesday. So if you look at the training for collaborations 1, that'll describe what peer reviews are and how you can use those. And then there's the assign to area where you will choose all of your assigning options, which function just like an assignment. So once you have created your discussion and people have participated in it, you can go view the discussion. I have a sample one from I had some teachers do yesterday, so I can show you. So these aren't the explicit instructions I discussed earlier, but you got the gist. This is what the discussion will look like. So you have an initial post. I always, the instructions here would always say you need to respond to so many people in order to receive full points. But this is how you view the threads for the discussion. The awesome thing about discussions to me is that they're easily gradable, just like an assignment. So you can. Actually, I'll show you through. You can't access these the same way you would any other assignment. So, for example, you can go into your gradebook and see exactly who completed it and who didn't. Let me see if I can, might have missed it. This is a gigantic class. I should have organized this. I know it's here somewhere.
I think it's sample discussion near the right
Did I miss
side.
it?
Yeah, I saw it go by.
I think I'm looking for.
I think you just passed it again.
Did I? Oh, there we go. Okay. Thank you. For some reason, I was looking for it. Never mind. All right. So you'll see here who had submitted the discussion. And you can go into Speedgrader. And the cool thing about Speedgrader is that it will break all of the contributions by the students into one area so that you can see everything that they've done. Trying to find a better one.
You can access Speedgrader from the discussion as well.
Yes. Um, so yeah, but the cool thing about this is it's easily gradable. Um, is where I'm going with this. But what my point is that it brings all of the contributions together for you to see them all at the same time. And if you would like to see the discussion in its entirety, so if you're looking at a response that someone has and it looks questionable, then you can go view the discussion as it was taking place. Perhaps somebody said something you don't think is cool and you need to see the context for it. That's one way you can go about that. And then you'll just grade it the same way you would with an assignment.
Freeman, can you show them what it looks like, the threaded replies, how to see if someone's replied to your original prompt versus if they're replying to another student? Like what it looks like in the actual discussion? You know what I'm trying to say?
To see the initial responses?
Well, yeah, like how it looks different if someone's like those gaps, because it doesn't really indent like a traditional discussion, but how there's not. So, like Mariah's responses to Rachel, because they're connected to each other, where the second response by Mariah is her own response because it's isolated out. I just know the first time I looked at it, I was expecting something more like Facebook where it's indented and
Oh, I see what you mean.
it's not as
Oh,
obvious.
I was thinking, I thought you were talking about a way perhaps to just see the initial responses. There's no way to do that, is there?
No, I don't think so. No, I just meant to know the difference between a reply to someone versus a reply to the actual discussion.
Hmm. Thank you. So are there any questions about discussions?
There's a question in the chat about not discussions, but about how Canvas gradebook and then Synergy. So do you use Canvas gradebook and then bring over one grade for assignments, quiz, and tests, etc.? Or
Um, like the strategy that I use for
yeah,
moving grades over, is that the question?
yeah.
Yeah. So the okay, so Canvas, of course, does not communicate with Synergy, which a lot of people have feelings about. And so it does make it a little bit uh, time consuming in order to transfer grades. I mean, if you want to see how I do it, I'm not sure. I know a lot of teachers have a lot of different strategies, and they're also usually dealing with multiple monitors. So there's a lot of different ways to go about it. I always um, just split my screen. In fact, I'm sure if I minimize it, it'll end up that way because I was doing it earlier. So what I mean is, if this were my Synergy, um, I would minimize and move my Synergy over and make sure that the grades are lined up with each other, and then I would just enter them accordingly. Is this the question that was being asked? Is that the
So I think some teachers move over like the final grade from Canvas into Synergy and just update that one column. So instead of inputting individual assignments, they put that total grade over there. We don't recommend that because it doesn't communicate any information to the parents about their actual performance. So how they're doing on a quiz, whether they missed assignments and things like that, since parents don't have access to the breakdown in Canvas, we need to communicate that information to them through Synergy.
Yeah, I pull over each assignment from Canvas and type it into Synergy.
so you don't just put the grade books next to each other? Is that
No, I do, but I type out each assignment's grades. I don't do what they were asking was, can you just use like the cumulative score for an assignment group And
Oh,
we don't encourage that because of what Julie said, because you can't see the breakdown then.
yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions? I see things popping up. Is there anything on the feed, or I guess I can check.
No, the only question right now is there a way to restore a discussion that was inadvertently deleted?
Um, yeah, I guess there's the.
The
I
undelete?
don't know if it'd be worth it. You can go into the undelete. Should I show them?
So, yeah.
Okay. Go back to sharing. Is it just slash undelete? Is that right?
Yeah, just at the end of your course.
Yeah. All right.
You,
So if you have created something, which this happens a lot, and you've deleted it, there is the option. Let's keep going. There's the option to go look in an area where they have undeleted content. So you would just basically you would get to where the course code is, and then after that slash, you would type undelete. It will take you to this page, and you have the option of restoring things that you have mistakenly deleted.
so this only works for things that you had saved at some point though. So if you were just like working on it and then accidentally closed your browser and it never saved at all, that's not this will do. But this will get you if you like manually like got rid of something and then so the course number is always, when you're looking at your URL and you're in your course, it's always going to be the mpsaz.instructure.com/courses and then a 5-digit number. That's your course ID. So whatever page you were on, so like he was on the grade book, I think. So he just had to delete until he got to what he's highlighted. You still want the slash there and then type undelete. I'm going to share the um, Google form for getting credit for this PD.
Yeah.
It's the very last choice on the list of which ones you attended. It's Canvas Collaborations Part 2 discussions.
I'll also share the area where you can find all these videos. I think that's been helpful.
Oh, I can share. I got it already, unless you
Okay.
have it.
Now you can go for it. I will say that in order to find these Canvas specific ones, you have to go to the bottom and find the playlist that exists there. I've had some teachers ask me about that.
Melissa's asking if you can merge discussions. She somehow created 2 separate ones and have different students who have posted, but wants them all in one place. I don't know of an option to do that.
I don't know either. I want to say you can't, unless somebody knows something I don't.
I've never heard of such a thing. I agree.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know, just trying to be creative, you could close one of them and whichever one has less, maybe screenshot some of those discussions in or copy and paste it over. Like it'll show it as coming from you, but the only way would be to like manually send it over, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would just grade them separately, and then just like I open my grade books, move them that way. I don't think there's any way to merge them. Well, if there are any other questions, thanks for being here. Make sure you fill out that form on your way out, and please feel free to get a hold of any one of us. If you have questions about any of this. we'd be happy to help.
Yeah, and if you're not sure who your OIDC is, like if you're not in the Mountain View region, we'd be happy to help you figure that out too.
I'm Rachel Coley, and I'm here for Westwood Region teacher. So contact me on WebEx or email anytime. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I think we're good.
We're good? All right.
Thanks everyone for attending. Have a great Thursday.